Okay. Hey guys, it's Miss Petrie. We are going to do a bell ringer today for watercolor. I have set up a little filming station here. I'm doing this on my phone. This is my first time doing it. I hope it goes well. So you are going to need this half sheet of watercolor paper. Watercolor paper has texture. So you can see there's a textured side and then there is a smooth side. We're going to use the textured side. Does it really matter? No, not really. This isn't like super high-end watercolor paper. Paper comes in poundage, so that means how thick it is. The higher the pound, the thicker the paper is. So this is only a 90-pound paper, which is okay for a little practice, but it's not super thick, which means it's not super great. So you're going to need a half sheet of paper. You're going to need a cup of clean water. You're going to need some paper towel, a pencil with an eraser, and a watercolor palette with some watercolor brushes. Now, my watercolor palette lid is dirty, so the first thing I'm going to want to do is to make sure that that is clean, because this is my palette. This is where I'm mixing all of my colors. So I'm going to take my paper towel and I'm going to get it wet, and I'm just going to wipe it out. This is what I used. I used this palette last night to create the mini project demo example that is hanging on the board. So that's why it's all dirty. And I should have wiped it out last night, but I thought I might add a few finishing touches onto it, and so I wasn't sure if I wanted to do that yet. I didn't. Usually my paper towel rags get really, really gross because I use them so much while I'm painting. It's really good to wipe off your paintbrush or to dab your paper if your if your paper has like too much water on it, it's oversaturated. I'm just wiping this out. Very exciting. Okay, pretty clean, right? Yeah, not bad. Okay, so I'm gonna set that off to the side. Go and put my water over here. I'm gonna put my paper right back here. Okay, so the bell ringer, I need to draw 4 circles, 3 rectangles. Let's see. I think that I'm going to do it. Maybe I'll do it here. So I'm going to draw 3 lines. And then 3 lines opposite. Connect them. They don't have to be super straight. If you're a little OCD and you want to use a ruler, you can. You don't have to. So these are my 3 rectangles. Over here, I'm going to draw 4 circles. So I'm going to do 1. Notice how before I start to even put my pencil on the paper, I'm starting to make the motion of the circle. And then, when I feel pretty confident about my stroke, I will actually touch my pencil to the paper. Drawing circles is hard. The only way that you can get better at it is by practicing it a lot. Okay, so 4 circles, 3 rectangles. All right, I'm going to try to do this really quickly. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to activate my paint. So I'm going to take my water and my brush, and I'm going to start putting in some clean drops of water into my palette to activate these colors. And what do I mean by activate? Well, these are solid, right? They're semi-moist. And this is watercolor, so I need water in order to wake up these colors, to make them liquidy so that I can use them. Now, I'm probably only really going to want to use or activate the colors that I'm using, so I guess for now I'm going to do the bottom and maybe this yellow, because I like this yellow. Okay. So let's start off with yellow. So what I'm practicing over here is I'm practicing blending techniques. So I'm going to start off with the first square. I'm just going to do a stripe of one color. It's not super thick, it's pretty watery. I'm going to grab another color. I'm going to grab this weird color, sort of a green blue color, and I'm going to do another stripe down here. Nice, 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 nice. Okay, cleaning out my brush. I'm going to take a clean, wet brush, and I'm just going to go right in between. I'm going back and forth a few times. Maybe I go up into the yellow, down into the green. If it's starting to encroach too much on the yellow, I might take a clean brush and swipe it so that it doesn't get too high up there. If I'm losing my yellow, I'm going to pick up a little more. I'm just going to brush it back on. Okay, so great. Okay, another technique. Take some water. Just going to wet down this square. I'm going to take one color and drop it in, wet. Pick up another color and drop it in wet at the bottom. Taking a clean brush, going in between. Last but not least, I only did half of it wet. I'm going to pick up a color. Orange, no. Blue. I'll get this side wet here. Take a clean brush, kind of fade it out, right? That gradual fade. And then I'm going to pick up another color. Notice how where it's dry, the water has stopped, right? It didn't spread down this way. So now I'm going to do just a little bit of purple. And you can see how it is spreading. So wet and wet. Okay, this is wet, and then this was dry, and then it was wet in the middle. This was dry, or, stripe, stripe, clean water in the middle. I just want you to play around with blending colors to see what works for you. So now we're going to do these spheres. I'm going to shade them in. I'm going to think of where my light source is coming from. I'm going to draw an arrow. You can have them going from different directions, whatever you want. So I'm going to pick up a color. I'm going to put this color in my lid first. I'm going to put a little water in there. So I'm going to leave a space where the light would shine. I'm going to do one layer there. I'm going to clean off my brush. And this is when you can use your paper towel to make sure that highlight's nice and visible. I'm going to pick up a different color. This one's going to be blue. Adding a little bit of water to it so that it's not too thick. I'll do the same thing over here. So I'm going to work on these at different times. Look at how thin that first layer is. I'm not getting super thick. I'm not getting super crazy with it. Again, if you override your highlight, blot it out. I'm going to do my next layer. Green. Clean. In between. Okay. And then my final color, orange. Oops, that was going to be a little, oh, this one's more there. Okay, so the reason that I'm working on all of them at the same time is because I want each one to dry a little bit. So for my second layer, I'm just coming down a little farther. Blend. And it's nice because I already have my color. Oops, yeah, I should have waited for this. Spreading it down a little bit farther there. And this one down a little bit down here. So each time I add a layer, I'm trying to get it a little bit farther down. Down, down, down. Start working on the shadow, I guess. Seeing as how I am doing this too quickly. Okay. I'm going to make a little more saturated version of that dark color, and I'm just doing that by adding a little more of the paint into that puddle of water that I have. So I still want it watery, but I want it a little thicker because that's going to make it a little darker in value. Okay, so I guess I'm working in backwards order now. Beep, beep, beep. Add that right on into there. Right there. I don't like how that's not. That's better. Green. Sorry. Now, some of you may be like, Petrie, can't we add other colors to it to, you know, help it to transition or blend or look more three-dimensional? Yeah, absolutely. You can create other colors with, you can create shadows with other colors. That's totally fine. But I would save it for when you start to get kind of down into your final layering. And the good colors for shadows are always going to be cool colors. So things like purples and blues, those are the best ones for cool or for shadows because cool colors recede. That means it goes back in space. Warm colors come forward. So if I'm doing this particular pink sphere, I'm going to want to pick up something like maybe this darker purple and mix it in. And then just very carefully apply it at the base. Then if I go back with a clean brush, I'm just going to kind of help it to blend out a little bit. Okay, so green. There's a darker green. Or I could put a little blue in it, kind of whatever. Boom. So I am doing this wet and wet. You can get crisper lines if you do wet and dry, but yeah. Okay, so then you would just do this for the rest of them until they are as spherical as you would like for them to be. So hopefully this was a nice little kind of reminder or a little, oh, I didn't quite get to see what you were doing when you were demoing on the dot cam because the dot cam sucks. That's actually your class, so. Can you see my face? Okay. Good luck on your bell ringer, and if you need help, raise your hand and I'll be around. Okay, bye.